Hey everybody, this is Feng Zhu and welcome to episode 58 of Design Cinema. And this is going to be a special question and answers because you guys have been sending a lot of questions. As you guys see, I have a huge stack of them. And I thought I'd do a episode focusing just on addressing these. These questions range all over the place, so it's going to be a little bit sporadic in terms of the topics, but I'll try to get through as many as I can. Before I get started, I do want to say that this is my personal opinion, and this is a rule of law or anything like that. So if you don't agree with my answers, feel free to comment in our section. So all right, let's get started with some of these. The first questions come from HKMV1, and he asks, how do you get your foot on the door? Well, you should be in the door. How do you advertise yourself to these companies and get hired for various projects? Great question. One that we get often here on YouTube, as well as my personal inbox, my emails, because I think a lot of people want to know, how do you break into this business? Well, with the internet, this might sound cliche, but really a good website, a good blog is one of the best ways for people to find you. And also, you have to be a little bit more active. You can't just put a website if you have no traffic. Obviously no one knows that you exist. So my suggestion is to participate, for example, in some of the art contests out there. That sounds a little cheesy, so you want to choose your contests carefully. But some of the bigger ones, like the one from I think Polycount, the one from Noman, these are ones if you win or even be placed second or third, a lot of people are going to be seeing your work. And believe it or not, a lot of art directors out there look at these forums and look at these blogs. So if you do great work, hey, your stuff is out there for everyone to see, and you never know if they're going to contact you. So in the meantime, keep your blogs updated, because something we do look for as well is to see how often you keep your sites updated. Are you keep maintaining your newest work? Are you getting rid of the older ones? Keep it very active, so we know that you're an active member and doing something to always improve your blogs. So I think that's, for at least in my opinion, that is one of the best ways to advertise yourself. All right, next question by Unfinite or Unfinite. All right, he asks, when you're scripting with a marker at the beginning, this has to do with episode 57. How much of the final design are you aware of? Are you just scribbling down cool shapes, or do you have some idea of what you want to make already? Are you thinking of these in three-dimensional shapes at that point? The answer is it's about 50% of the idea I'm trying to get down. The exact shapes, the exact details, no, at that point it's not important. The most important is following some kind of spec. I don't do most of my designs with nothing in mind. For example, just start scribbling something and hopefully something comes out. I do have an overall goal. In the case of episode 57, it was about designing some ships without using traditional formulaic layout of the cockpit to engine to nose ratio, which is the tip. You put the cockpit in the middle, you have the engines in the back, and you have a very long nose. Very typical. So what I want to do is play around the z-axis. So all the cockpits are high up on top. Then you got the body, and then you got the engine sort of behind it, kind of like a angelfish shape like that. So that's my main goal. When I started the marker, I didn't care about the details. I really didn't even care about the construction or the technology behind it. The main goal is the form. So that works for all sorts of stuff. So you might do a city, and your main goal is to do something that's maybe burned out, or a city that's very slick. That's your goal. So as you're doing your silhouettes, you just make sure you find that goal. The exact detail, the exact design language, that could come later. The big forms are the most important things to capture in the beginning. So hopefully that answers your question. All right, next one by Kaiser JIM23. I love this question because we also get this a lot. Do you need a college degree in entering the video game industry? And the answer is a definite no, actually. You don't need anything in this industry. Nobody cares. In the 14 or so years I've been working in this business, not a single time has a client asked me what degree I hold or what school I went to. They just don't care. The only thing they care about is your portfolio and how good you could design. So no, you don't need a degree at all. It's one of those industries that you could be very, very successful without having any school, actually. So portfolio is the number one thing that drives your careers. All right, next question. Let me just hold on to one of these at a time. From Captain Vane, he asks, what's your advice to keep yourself motivated during the learning process for someone who lacks confidence? This, to me, is a two-part question. He is addressing something about confidence and something about motivation. In a way, they're tied together, because if you're not confident, you don't want to draw. You don't want to draw, you're not motivated. So if you're not motivated, you have no confidence, right? So you have to start with one of these to break this endless cycle. And for me, I think motivation is the key. You have to love what you do to be able to sit down for the next 10 hours or 12 hours and do a drawing. And if you have that kind of commitment, most likely you draw something you like. And if you do something you like, the confidence level shoots up. The more confidence level you have, the more motivation you have. So you have to get into the zone. For me, when I was in school, it was all about putting up posters of places I wanted to work. Keep in mind, I was doing this in the studying around 1995 or so, and there was no DVDs, there was no concept art books, there's just nothing to find out about the industry. So it was really hard to get information. The only thing I had was the posters from my favorite films, and I knew studios such as Stan Winston, Digital Domain, Industrial Light and Magic, Rhythm and Hues. These are the studios doing these films. So I'll buy their posters, I'll buy their movie posters, and look at the little logo on the bottom. And I just kept thinking to myself, this company is made out of people just like me. They got arms, eyes, and legs, and everything, just like me. But how come they're working on such cool projects and I'm not? So, and what it boils down to is hard work. So it always tells me they're human, I'm human. If I work harder, I could do what they're doing. So that was my personal motivation to keep driving forward. And as you have that motivation, you start doing better and better work. That gives you confidence. And believe it or not, once your confidence level gets to a certain level, you know how to draw, you know have a certain way of designing. Man, you can start smooth sailing at least maybe 6 months to a year after you start this process. You get pretty comfortable and you feel great about doing it. So that confidence level gets much higher. So yeah, break that cycle. Get motivated. Okay, whatever that may be. But the one thing I advise you though, don't get into procrastination where things that seems to be motivation but are not. The big example of that is video games. Okay, because I've seen students go, hey, I'll take a break. I want to get motivated. So I'm gonna go play. I'm gonna go play a video game for 15 minutes. Of course, it's never 15 minutes, like an hour or 2 hours, right? Are you really being motivated? Is that really motivation, or is that just an excuse to do something else? And in my opinion, it's an excuse. If you want to get motivated by video games, then the better idea is go to YouTube, watch some let's play videos. That way, you're staying hands off the addiction nature of it, and you're only appreciating the graphics, the design, the fun factor, right? You can absorb the same amount of information without being addicted. So if you do that, that's totally fine. In fact, we advise that for our students here. As they're working, they can listen to some videos of video games play so they know what's going on. All right. Next question by Phil Lazaria. And he asks, how do I showcase my work online without people stealing my idea? Do I just show my skill level in something quite generic and save my original ideas for possible employment? Or do I have to copyright my ideas or something? Good question, but something you don't have to worry about at all. Big companies, the guys out there making movies and making games, look, they're not going to go to a website, downloading images, and then go tell their concept guy, hey, rip this guy off. Especially if you're not even a professional. Do you know what I'm saying? The chance of them finding work, one, is pretty minimum. Two, big companies don't need to do that. There's a reason why we employ concept teams and this elite group of artists to be inside Ubisoft or EA or various companies. And those guys are motivated, just like you guys want to break in, right? So I don't think you guys want to get into a company and the first thing you want to do is visit a website and steal someone's design. It just doesn't happen. I've never seen it myself. And if you do get yourself in a company that does that, I think you should probably leave because their business practices are obviously flawed. So you don't have to worry about it at all. And actually, if you do put your work up on a website, you actually have a little bit of protection against that because with the social networking scene that we have now, if you have some pretty popular work, most likely hundreds, if not thousands of people have seen it too. So if someone does rip you off, you have a case against them. So yeah, don't worry about that too much. All right, so next question by Him Trump Design or Him Troop Design. He says, hey, how do you balance your life as a student? How do I balance my life between drawing and social life? The key word here is balance, and the key important thing here is you got to remove that word. Okay, there is no such thing. If you are a student and you want to make in this business, you don't balance social life and schoolwork. It's schoolwork. That's it, period. Okay, because what are you doing school for? You're in school to learn. You're not in school to do some stuff and have social life, especially in the type of work that we do. This is a trade school, or what I do is a special trait. Okay, we're not here to learn about all aspects of life, have a college life, make a lot of buddies and friends. That's what colleges are for. That's what universities are for. I've been to university before. In the mid '90s, I went to UC Berkeley, and that was great. You learn stuff, you hang out with friends, you have a lot of social life, and the colleges actually encourages that. But in a trade program like ours, you're learning something very, very specific, and it's extremely difficult, and you're only learning to do one thing. In this case, concept art. So if you're not doing the 100%, somebody else is. So of course, we can't force our students to not have a social life. They could go watch a film, they could watch, play games and hang out with their friends. But if they choose to do so, they're always going to be a little bit behind to the individual who is not doing that. And we have seen that over and over again. And I've never seen the reverse, in which someone is kind of not working so hard, kind of having an easy time in school, kind of doing homework here and there, and somehow ends up as a superstar. All the superstars that have graduated from my school, for example, are always those who are basically doing 100% all time, all day, 24 hours a day work, and they become very, very good. And once you have a job, hey, you get all that back. We're talking about a very short time period in which you lose your social life. You gain all that stuff back later. So the key here is to forget the word balance. Just drop it. You're gonna have to work hard. There's no other way around it. All right. So let me take a quick break and cut the next one. All right. Let's move on to our next question by user the rainy sky. Great name. All right. And he or she asked, "Hey, I wonder in industry how many people actually work traditionally?" Actually, the answer is a lot, because clients could care less how you get to the result. In this business, it's all about the final image, not the process. So if you draw on paper, scan it in, and paint it, fine. If you want to build it in ZBrush and then paint it up in Photoshop, go ahead. You could take a photo of the environment, paint on top of that, that's fine too. So it's all about just getting the final result. The only thing we don't advise, of course, is plagiarism and copying other people's work, but that goes without saying. So yeah, traditional work is used all the time. A lot of my friends who are still sketching on paper, it's whatever's most comfortable, whatever is the fastest workflow, the most comfortable, relaxed workflow that allows you to design, then stick to that, right? Experiment, find new things as you go forward, but nobody tells you what's wrong or what's right. There is no such thing in this business. The only thing that matters is the final result. Okay, next question by Machimirin, or Machimirin, can't pronounce that. Okay, it says, would you offer workshops anywhere else but Singapore? The answer to that is maybe. I have to explain to you guys that for some of those who might be younger, who don't maybe see the cost of things, running a workshop is very, very time consuming and extremely expensive, because say we have to run one in London, we have to fly about at least 4 to 5 of our staff here, plus our speakers, put everybody in hotels, fly everyone in nice planes and all that kind of stuff. It's 5-star treatment all the way for all our speakers, and that rack up a huge cost. And this is also why workshops typically cost quite a bit to get into them, because these companies do put up a lot of costing in the front, especially if you're going to base these in major cities, in which everything is a little bit more pricey. But it is in the works. We are planning something next year, hopefully. I'm not sure where yet. But on that note, I will be in San Francisco in March at the San Francisco GDC. So FCD will have a booth there. I'll be there doing demos. So if you guys are coming to that, welcome to stop by. I'll be doing a bunch of free stuff. We'll have a bunch of things available there. So stop by and say hi. That'll be great to meet some of you guys. So I'll definitely be there. San Francisco, March. I'm not sure the exact date, but check for GDC. We'll be there. All right, next question by Mike Pangman. And he asks, how big should your portfolio be before you approach a company for work, be it a permanent employee or freelance artist? I think a good number to get is about 30 pages. That shows a good range of your best work only. If you have less than that, don't ever try to fatten it with bad work. Your best portfolio piece is your worst work. Okay, keep that in mind, because we'll always judge your work based on what's the weakest piece in your portfolio. That weak one gives away everything. For example, you have really good stuff and suddenly one of them is really bad. Then it calls into question your taste. It's like, if you're this good, why did this bad one make it in here? You should have the common sense to take it out, right? So, are the good ones made by your friends? Are the good ones made by instructors? We don't know. So always make sure you keep your best work in your portfolio. It's better to be thin than to be thick, padded with bad work. And if you have a lot of good work, you also don't need to pad it. 30 pieces is pretty much all you need. In reality, actually, I think when we're looking at portfolios, by the time we reach 2 or 3, maybe even 4, you already know this guy's pretty good. There's something about line weight, composition, lighting. There's a lot of different factors that within a few seconds, they're good. So, it's kind of like looking at a sports car. If a Ferrari drives by, you don't need to examine it, study it, think about it, and go, is this a nice looking car or is this not? You know within fractions of a second that a very nice car just came by. It's the same thing when we look at portfolios. There's not just one thing. It's a package of everything combined that gives you instant answer to the question you're asking. Is this a professional? And yeah, it doesn't take that many pieces nor time for us to figure that out. All right, next question by on Gus Video. So it goes, So Feng, how long did it take you to get into the industry after you graduated? Would the time frame be the same for self-taught designers? I'll answer the first part. I'll answer the second part of the question in a separate section. So he basically asked, how long did it take me personally to get into the industry? For me, I was quite lucky. I was at a show at GDC, and I actually got recruited by a producer who was walking the floors. He knew that I was a designer. I was carrying some of my stuff around, and he asked me to pass him. Actually, he gave me his business card and told me to call him. He was a producer from Origin Systems at the time, which is now EA Austin. Yeah, so I sent him my stuff about a week later, and he gave me a call and offered me a job. So that's a little lucky, but that has something to do with the time period. Right? Keep in mind that this is 1997. The 3D games are just coming onto the scene. Not too many concept guys out there. Now, most schools are not even training this kind of stuff. So very few guys are out there doing concept art, especially for video games. There's a couple of guys doing films at the time, but games, very little. So the fact that I sent this stuff in, there's a little bit of luck to that. Time has to do with time period. Okay, that might not work today. So I was lucky in that fact, but of course I also worked really hard in school and built up a pretty fat portfolio with a lot of work. So I was able to choose things that tailored to that company. They were working on Wing Commander at the time, so I knew to put in a lot of sci-fi, spaceship, and these sort of things, drawn in good perspective and whatnot, and was offered a job. So yeah, the second part of this question, we'll get to it in a second. All right, next question from Mukishi the Great, or Mukishi the Great, Mukasha the Great. All right, ask, can you show us your setup? You're looking at it right now. I have a couple setups. This is one of them. This is an Alienware desktop PC. It's under the table. It's a very powerful computer that runs into this 27-inch Dell screen. I also use Mac. This I normally is not here, the 17-inch, but I do use this for remote purposes, or when I teach downstairs in our workshop area, I use this. But then this image here is fed into a Cintiq, so I'll show you guys a little bit. This is Photoshop here, so you can see these images go left and right. So you could use the Cintiq. In this case, this is the Cintiq 23, I believe, right, to draw. And then if you want to work traditionally or using the traditional Wacom, I could slide this guy back into this side, or you could actually do both. You just do a new window. Hold on one second as I do that for you guys. Okay, it's taking too long. Here we go. Right, you can actually slide both of these. So we have one on the Cintiq, we have one on the 23 or 27-inch. Okay, let me take this down a bit. So I can actually go back and forth and use the Cintiq for this part of the painting. I could go back to the 27-inch and use the traditional Wacom 3. So I love working that way because for certain things, the Cintiq is very, very good for for line drawing. For example, what I did in episode 57, right, last episode. It's great for that. For digital painting, in this case, I have a work in progress painting. Then the traditional Wacom is something I prefer. But if I want to draw some details here and there, then yeah, this is great. So yeah, that's my setup. You don't need something super fancy, but if you're a professional and you're working, then yeah, you get yourself some good equipment. For me, it's not about the fancy setup and all that. It's about speed. Okay, I need processors to be fast. I need RAM to be plenty, so that way when I'm saving, when I'm working with big files, it doesn't chug. Machines like this one, it will probably cost you around $7,000 US from Alienware. Just tell them to give you the best thing they possibly make. They're expensive, but what you get in return is just a complete relaxed working environment. I'm talking about opening up 2 gig files and just work and work. Press save, nothing. You don't even feel it. It's so fast, and that's great. That's good for working professionals. For a student, however, that's a little bit crazy to spend that much money when you're not actually earning money in return. So I don't suggest that. Instead, get this guy. This is the older 17-inch Mac, the new 15-inch Retina, which our students here use. Great PCs or Macs, whatever you call it. Good for everything. So. You also notice I'm not a Mac or PC guy. I use whatever works. So I have no affiliation with either. They're just tools for me. All right, so I think we finished this sheet. Let's move on to the next one while I get a drink of water. Next question, number 49, comes from DJ Thermite. Great name. All right, and he asks, as a relative beginner, I know I won't hold a flame to lifelong artists. However, I'm not lacking in creative side of things. How do I break in? So I think what he's trying to get to is the fundamentals, which is the key. The key to breaking into the industry is to know your anatomy, your perspective, lighting, your mood, all the basic foundation building blocks of concept art. You might have great ideas. I mean, you could get a 7-year-old kid off the street. They could probably spew out a lot of good ideas. But you cannot make that person into a professional because they don't know how to communicate that in any other words but scribbling words out their mouth. For a concept artist, you have to be able to capture that in a drawing. So even though you have good ideas, you have to learn the fundamentals to get that out so everyone else knows what you're trying to think about, right? So because you can't go into a meeting and just I don't think there's a concept talker. You know what I'm saying? Actually, producers do that kind of work. But as a concept artist, you can't do that. You can't go, my job is it's a cool spaceship and it's blue and it's this long and it's got 2 guns on the side. You can't do that. Somebody has to visualize that. So you have to know the fundamentals of how to draw that. It's easy to just brainstorm all sorts of ideas, but can you actually draw that? Can you make it a 3D object to be buildable in a film or a video game? Then that takes a whole other skill set. So yeah, learn your fundamentals. That's the part to focus on. Let's see. Next question is actually related, so I'm going to skip that one. Let's go to this one here by Brintyboy 0007. And he asks, should I, this is actually related to the question that I just answered, but it's related. Should I have some drawing skills such as anatomy and technical stuff before I should make paintings or design my own stuff? And the question is a definite half yes, okay? Because you want to explore the creativity side always. Even if you can't draw well, who cares, right? Ideas is important to capture, even if they suck. The drawings have no perspective, no anatomy, but you're getting a cool idea down. But at the same time, you have to practice the other side because you need to be able to draw that well. So it's a two-part answer. You have to learn your anatomy, learn your technical stuff, learn all the very kind of so and so boring stuff. In the meantime, continue drawing in your other sketchbook with all your crazy ideas and stuff you used to do in high school. Keep those updated. Whatever idea you had in a dream last night, whatever, get those things captured. And yeah, work on both at the same time. All right, so let me take a quick cut. All right, so next question. Let's continue from Dark M&M Chocolate. What a cool name. Now I'm hungry from these kind of things. All right, and he or she asks, do you have to be well-rounded in both 3D and 2D in order to increase the chance of being hired? Because this person is saying, I heard employers tend to want people that know both parts of 3D and 2D in entertainment design. Is that true? Yes, to certain studios. You have to check the employee spec on their websites or call the art director and ask, because some studios, I do know that they require concept artists to know 3D. But it's not for most studios, it's not to the extent that you're actually modeling 3D assets for the actual game. Some places do, but most studios that I've worked at, they expect me to know the language of 3D, understand how it works, understand terms like polygons, vertices, UV mapping, these kind of technical words that maybe perhaps a 3D or a 2D artist might not be familiar with, because you have to speak the language. So because our work eventually is going to make its way down to a 3D artist, you have to communicate with them often, especially if you're working in-house. You have to be able to understand what they're saying to you. They tell you to reduce the poly count. You know what they're talking about. They're telling you to use a certain way to maybe UV transparencies or some kind of alpha mapping. These terms are pretty simple. I'm sure most of you guys know what I'm talking about. But if you don't know it, you should know it. So it's good to have that. But obviously, you don't want to build your model to be so good that then what job are you applying for? Are you a concept artist or 3D artist? But if you're good at both, then of course your avenues of employment opens up big time, because you could do 3D concept, which is pretty popular these days. A lot of my friends in LA do this kind of work, in which they design in 2D and then they migrate directly into 3D into ZBrush. So that's totally fine. But as far as job, that's for us as a preference. But for specific job requirements, you have to check with the company. Because I do know places like Blizzard, for example, I think a lot of 2D artists have to know some 3D in order to work there as part of the requirement. All right, let's go to the next one here from Stickmation, and he asked a question that's sort of similar to an earlier one, but his is tiny bit different. He says, when freelancing, how do you advertise yourself and bring in clients? Right? We had a previous question that asked, how do you get yourself in the door? This is a little bit different. This, I'm assuming he's talking that you're already freelancing, right? When freelancing, how do you advertise yourself? If you're freelancing, one of the best way to advertise yourself is through your clients. Okay, and what I mean by that is that you hook a client, your first one. Hopefully, it's a big one. Let's say you hooked Activision or you hooked Ubisoft. Let's put Ubisoft in this case, and a company like Ubisoft is a publisher. They own a lot of studios around the world. They got Montreal, they got Europe, Paris, London, right? They have Shanghai, I believe, even down here, Singapore, they have it. So what you do is you do a really, really good job for them on your first client. Maybe your first client is Ubisoft Montreal. Okay, do just an excellent job, the best you could possibly do. Completely, in a way, kill yourself while doing it. That's how I did it. Right? You quote them 8 hours, and you're totally killing yourself. You have to put like 16, 20 hours into this project. Why do you do that, right? Why are you eating into your hours? is because you want to do such a good job that these guys are so impressed with you. One, they're going to continue working with you from the Montreal location. Two, most likely they'll put your name into a database. Then that's in a central Ubisoft database that all the other studios will now know you exist, and the art directors now share your name. So maybe in 2 to 3 months, now you're working on Ubisoft Paris, and now you're working on Ubisoft Singapore. You never know. Okay, that's, at least for me, that was the way I got into the business. How I was able to secure a lot of clients was by enticing them with really good work in the beginning, and slowly let that trickle down, get into a comfortable zone. But in the beginning, you really want to do all your best to impress your clients. It's very, very vital. Word of mouth is more powerful than anything you do on your website or blog, because that is backed by someone with a history, right? When an art director from a company with 20 years experience saying, hey, I like to work with this freelance artist, you don't need no resume, you don't need no portfolio. That guy's word of mouth is all you need. Okay, so that's some of the best way to advertise yourself. All right, let's see. This next question comes from Brandon Azel. And he asks, hello, I'm age 18 and would like to study at your school. However, I intend to do it at the age of 20 or 21. What should I do in the meantime? For us, what we look for the most is visual library understanding. In terms of drawing, that's something we'll teach you. Drawing is a technical skill, and we have a pretty good system here to teach that to you. The one thing we really look for are students with very active imagination. So for this person here, he's got 2-3 years before he wants to get into our school, then yeah, use that time to build up your visual library. And that doesn't have to be drawing. Read books, travel, go look at nature, read about science, anything. Stuff that could fill your brain with good ideas. So by the time you learn how to draw, you can now pull those ideas out and start combining them together to give us good designs. So that is very, very vital. And seriously, drawing is not even that big of a deal, because I do see a lot of comments that you have to draw all the time, draw all the time. No, the visual library side to me is actually more important, because even if you could draw well, that doesn't necessarily mean you could design well. And in this business, we are designers first, artists second. So I don't think I've had any clients who ever gave me an art critique. I don't think that's ever happened. Because even if you do bad art, most clients know that, okay, maybe there's a quick sketch, or maybe there's something loose or something like that. They're not going to say, hey man, you should clean this up, or you should tighten this up. Never seen that happen. The feedback is always about design. Change this form, let's play with this thing, let's play with that. So that's what they're asking. They're hiring us for the design part, not the art side. So, and design is all about ideas, right? How to combine things, how to use things, the understanding of things. That is very, very vital. All right, next question, which is quite interesting, come from Kishishi Q, or QICQ, something like that. And I'm assuming this is a girl, because she asks, I noticed there seems to be a disproportionate amount of males and females in our school here, as well as the industry, right? Is there prejudice against females, or if she's a girl, can she make it? And the question is, of course not. But in the real world, there is a high male ratio. Here we probably have an 80% male to female, male being 80%, 20% female. It's because more guys get into the industry just the way they were brought up, right? They play video games, they watch a lot of action films and stuff, so they get into the mode of drawings and stuff. Just the interest level, that's just common, right? A lot of males. But if you are a female, of course, nobody discriminates. In fact, you actually have an advantage, especially if you're looking for a job. If you are a female and you draw well, you have an advantage that most studios see that, go, wow, this is someone we could bring in that could perhaps calm the art department. Because trust me, when you have a bunch of dudes together in a room, anything more than 3 or 4, it gets pretty guyish, very high testosterone driven type of stuff. And that leads to, could lead to certain issues, egos, and all sorts of stuff flies. You bring in a girl, a female, that draws well, that works well in the department, that can actually calm some people down. So it makes the art department a little bit more uniform. But of course, that's just in my case, what I've seen in the past. I have no idea what every student's cultures are. But yeah, you have a huge advantage. I remember looking through portfolios, you see a female name, and the work is very good. That's going to be seen, guarantee you, because, that's just human nature. But of course, your skill is important. You cannot be a girl, have bad work, and somehow end up working somewhere. At least in the studios being run by good art directors, they're not going to make an excuse simply because you're a female. They're going to put you in even if your work is not good. That only work for a few weeks before somebody fires them. So, all right, next question, by Race Jericho. Okay, this person is asking. I'll kind of paraphrase the question. Is that when you get onto a project and you're doing something you haven't done before, an area you're not familiar with, how do you fit that into your workflow, right? Like, do you charge your clients for that? And the answer is no, you cannot do that. When the clients come into you, they assume you're a professional, that you know how to do everything. That's just something they assume. One day you could be working on a Western, next day you could say, hey, we're switching the project, we're not doing Western anymore, now we're doing New York City in the 1960s, like Mad Men or something. You have to adopt that. You have to be able to do it. And are there time for you to research? No, there isn't, but you have to fit it in anyways. So maybe you stay up one night and just read as much as you can. Go to the bookstore, get as much books as you can. But you can't charge clients for that because they assume you already have it, right? Kind of like if you go to a doctor, go, hey, I have this condition. They can't tell you, oh, I don't know it, but let me go to university for a while, pay for my entire college tuition, wait for 4 years, let me get my graduate degree. I'll come back and answer that question. They're not going to do that. They're going to refer you to a specialist. And so that's the exact way we work here. If we don't do it, you cannot lie to clients either. You can't say, oh, yeah, I could do cowboy stuff really well. Even though back in your head, you might thinking, maybe that's something I should take. So in those kind of cases, I do tell our clients, no, this is not a subject matter I'm very comfortable working with. Sometimes they'll say maybe you could try it. In that case, maybe I'll try it. But in most cases, I'll turn it down because I don't want to disappoint. Right? Remember the secret to life: over-promise, under-deliver. That's the secret to life because you don't want to do the opposite. You don't want to over-promise, okay, under-deliver. Right? You don't tell your clients, yeah, I could do a great job on a cowboy film, and then come back horrible. Instead, you go, no, I'm not that strong, but I could give it a try. Instead, maybe you do an extremely good job. Okay, so that's the way it sort of works for that. All right, I think I'll move on to the next question here. 33. All right. This is more of a technical question. I hope I haven't skipped anything. Let me just double check here. All right. Let's see. DJ Therma. We answered that. Okay, good. Which is by the Art Kid 93, and he asks, or she asks, hey, just out of curiosity, what is the point of flipping the work back and forth? I didn't want to answer this question at first because I avoided all the questions which are technical, like Photoshop related, like what button do you press for that and that. You could get that from the other videos. But this question is interesting because it's not just a technical thing. It actually has to do with your brain. When an image is flipped, you tend to see stuff completely different. Your brain has to readjust the simulation in your head all over from scratch. So by flipping it, you're essentially seeing the image for the first time ever. So any kind of mistakes, any kind of fundamental issues, all that stuff shows up the minute you flip. So I have a habit, and as well as to our students, we teach them to constantly flip your image as you work. It just cuts down mistakes, cuts down things, and allows you to see your image fresh, as if you woke up the next day and saw it for the first time. So, all right, let me take a quick break, and we'll continue. All right, and I'm back. I was just checking the audio from our early recording, and I noticed we said something wrong. I said the secret to life is over-promise, under-deliver. Actually, I meant the opposite. I think I was speaking a little too faster. So let me slow it down. The secret to life is under-promise, over-deliver. Okay, got it? So just to be clear, you guys are going to write all sorts of hate comments now saying, oh, that's what the heck are you talking about? But no, it's under-promise, over-deliver. And what that means is you tell your clients, okay, I'll try my best, I'll do 2 or 3 pieces, and then you do the awesome work and you give them like double, like 4 pieces. Because they'll be surprised. People like surprises. People are always like that, but people don't like to be disappointed, right? You don't want to do the opposite. The opposite is, man, I could do like 10 paintings and 5 drawings, gonna be the coolest design I've ever seen. And then you procrastinate, you get freaking tired, and you end up with like 2 drawings and not even a painting. That will kill your career. So you got to do the opposite. All right. So just a little correction on the previous topic. All right. Let's move on to the next question by Lag and Primate, I guess is what we're trying to say here. And he or she asks, not to be conceited, but why would a self-taught artist not make it in the industry? If you're good, you're good. I'm not sure if this person is referring to something I've said because I've never said a self-taught artist could not make it. I've always said you don't need to be in school to be in this business, right? You can self-teach everything. You don't have to be in my school. You don't have to be in any other school. However, there is a little bit of clearance here. Self-taught, in my opinion, worked really well 10 to 15 years ago. I addressed this a little bit earlier. There just weren't that many people in it. So if you're an artist, you just happen to draw things like spaceships, like fantasy things, things that look like video game stuff, things that feel like film stuff, the chances of you getting hired, of course you have to draw pretty well, but the chance of getting hired is pretty high because there just isn't enough pool of people doing it. You submit your stuff to, say, at the time, EA or something, it's like seriously 2 guys. I remember working there, and this is 1998. The amount of portfolios you get in-house is maybe 1 every 2 weeks or something, very low. So in a month, you only get 2 portfolios. And of those, most of those are not even concept art. So when you get someone that's actually remotely good, you're like, man, let's hire this person. Flash now to 2012. It's been 15 years. A lot of schools now are training this kind of stuff. Our school trains this kind of stuff. So if you're self-taught, yes, you could do it, but now your competition has greatly, greatly increased. Not only are you going to try to catch up to professionals, right? To get into a company, you have to be good as pros. You're also trying to catch up to students who's been training this stuff years and years in an institution. They are doing stuff to a much higher degree and much faster than, say, someone who's learning on their own. The degree could be high, but time takes much longer. So your competition is much more fierce. The pool of people is much bigger. So for an employer who's looking at portfolios, they got a lot of guys possibly coming out of school. Here, someone else coming perhaps self-taught. Okay, your stuff may or may not measure up to someone with discipline. Okay, there's a certain way things look in someone who's been through a good institution. Their work has a certain way of touch in them, lying weight, also to deliver little clues, like the Ferrari thing I was talking about earlier, right? There's clues of being a high performance artist versus someone who might be self-taught. But to conclude, nothing wrong with self-taught artists. You just have to know the reality of things, right? 15 years ago, I would say, dude, forget going to school, just do it on your own. Nowadays, a little bit more riskier due to competition. Too many people out there doing this. Competition is so fierce. I mean, if you're self-taught, you can make it. Imagine for a student who's been in school for 2-3 years, they're still struggling to find their job. You know what I'm saying? And that person has been through a hard, intensive program. So that's how hard it is out there. All right. So let's see. Let me move on to the next question. By Zion Wash Destroyed asked a similar question to earlier one, which is what's my system. Okay, I didn't go over the specs too much, and they asked, hey, what system are you using? Very smooth. That actually comes with a lot of RAM. Okay, so if you're gonna get a machine for digital painting, for digital work of any kind, the processor power is not the most important thing. It's RAM. So this machine here, I believe, has 16 gigs. My home one also has a lot. I think more than that. That will make these files work very, very smoothly because when you run out of RAM, it uses your hard drive for swapping. So that's when you hear the clicking sounds and stuff like that. It makes your files very, very slow. So even for these Macs, these are all upgraded. I think this guy's got 8 gigs or something ridiculous, and 12 maybe. So you can upgrade them to the maximum the system can hold. Processor power, second importance to that. All right. Next question by Of2 Xanarkind. All right, and he has a very long question, as you guys can see. So I'll try to paraphrase this down as well. He actually sort of answered his own question within his own thing, right? Which is, to paraphrase, do you actually need to work a lot of hours to be competitive? And also, with those hours, are you just putting hours for the sake of putting in? Is that safe, or am I supposed to have a goal while I put those hours in? So it's a two-part question. The first part is, yes, you have to put in a lot of hours to get into this business. Like I addressed earlier, if you put in half the time, someone else is putting full time, that person is going to win. Okay. The second part of this question is, do you just draw everything, without thinking, or is it a plan? That's a two-part answer. Here in our school, we break down to two parts as well. The first part is they draw everything for visual library building. So we assign them topics. This week they're drawing birds. Next week they're drawing turtles. Next week they're drawing rocks. Next week they're drawing airplanes. The following week they're drawing architecture. Just drawing as much as they could possibly draw to fill their sketchbook. And what that's doing is training your hand-eye coordination, and it's also building up your visual library. Okay. But the second part is our design courses. Our design courses are not drawing just to draw whatever. Now they have to think, they have to plot, they have to slow down. So the number of pieces we're expecting back from the student is reduced because we're not looking for extreme high output. We're looking for good ideas. So that's the way we train our students. So yeah, it's double-sided question. You may answer here, right? You have to draw a lot with some goals, but in the meantime, you also have to do your fundamentals and visual library study. Okay, so all right, let's go to the next one. Dan Fillier, okay, asks, and I'll paraphrase once again. He says he's been working for over 10 years. Unfortunately, now I have back pain and shoulder in my neck. How do you set up your setup to avoid that? Unfortunately, this is going to happen in this business. We have a pretty unhealthy job in which you sit in front of these guys for up to 12 hours a day. But in the beginning of my career, I was pretty bad. I was taking on way too much freelance. I stay in the house pretty much 24 hours a day in front of these guys all day. But it's important because you're building up your reputation, you're building up your clientele. So there's really isn't anything to do that's good for your health. After a few years, however, like recently, I don't do that anymore. I only work from 9 to 7 or something like that. And when I go home, I work out quite a bit, go running, do all these things with my dog, go to the beach. So try to bring back all the unhealthy stuff I did in my mid-20s. Try to get that back. Try to cut down. I don't eat any fast food or anything like that. So it does help. But yeah, even if I work in front of the computer for more than a few hours, my wrist will hurt as well. But you can get one of those squeezy stuff, which I have in the office here. You squeeze your hand, exercise this wrist here, your carpal tunnel stuff here. This is the one that go first. So make sure you get some of those squeezy balls. And they're quite good. I use that. It's just right over here. I can see it out of camera range. But I use that quite a bit for exercising. And also get yourself a nice chair. This is not a really good one I have here, but at home I have an Arion chair. you know, those kind of fancy, expensive chairs. But they're actually really good. They're very, very comfortable. You can sit on them for many hours and you have no pain. And get yourself a good screen. Okay, these screens here, these are all the good ones. The Mac screens are good too. Every single pixel is backlit. It's very, very bright. It's very comfortable for the eyes. There's a cheaper LCD screens, and you know it. If you go to the stores and they're about $100, $200, you're looking at the cheaper versions. Even if they're big, even if they're like 23-inch, but they cost $20, they're using a cheaper technology. They're not good for your eyes. The refresh rates are also not so good. These guys, if you're looking at a monitor 27-inch, they should probably cost you about $1,000. Okay, Apple screen is more than that. Then you're in a very good screen, and they're actually quite good for your eyes. So I don't get tired working on these screens at all. All right, let me see if I can fit one more question before I break. Okay, we're on almost the last page here. Trying to close up here. This is a toughy one. This is by Eric Lin. He asks, I'm age 31. I have a wife and 2 small kids. While I'd like to go to your school and train myself to be a better artist, it's not possible for me since moving is not really an option. What's your suggestion? Really, this is a lifestyle question. This is something that you have to make as an individual. What do you want to do in the future? We had a person in almost the exact situation as this that came to our school about 3 years ago. This person also was married, had kids, and I don't try to sell our school to anybody. I don't say, hey man, you should drop all that and come to our school. There's no way I'll do that. That'll destroy someone's life. I simply asked this person, are you happy with what you're doing right now? And he hesitated for quite a while. Then you know the answer is no. You know what I'm saying? So if that's the case, it's never too late to make some stuff changes in your life. If it's too dramatic, then don't move. Study, go to schools in your area, self-teach, go buy some Nomen DVDs or something. There's a lot of stuff out there for you to learn, to try to get better. But if you find that to be hard, then you might have to make some drastic changes in your life. You only live this one time on this earth. So for me, my personal belief is always try to do stuff you want to do. You know, don't give up simply because it's too much around you, too much risk, right? The more risk you have sometimes, the better reward. It's totally true. I moved to Asia in 2006. It's a huge risk, moving away from all my clients in Los Angeles and all that, because I want to do something else. I want to run business. I want to be an entrepreneur. And I have to drop a lot of stuff to do that. But it's something I totally don't regret looking back. It taught me a lot of stuff, put me in a different situation. So yeah, and the age is never a problem. Okay, I've seen concept guys who are like 60 years old, 70 years old doing this kind of stuff. No problem, right? You can learn this stuff almost at any age. So, but again, you have to do this on your own. I'm not gonna pressure anyone to say, hey, you should drop everything and just get into this business. No, do what you think is right. So, let's see. Okay, let me take a quick break and then we'll finish up this up. All right, we are back. So let's continue. Next question by Chase Tucker. Simple question, but I like to answer it because this is a personal thing. But what is the best software for digital painting, concept art? It's right here. This is Adobe Photoshop. Let me see. Whoops, sorry, hit the mic. All right. So this Photoshop, in my opinion, is the best software out there for this kind of stuff. There is Corel Painter. It's quite good for sketching and drawing. But if you want a very solid, non-crashing software that just has every tool you could use for doing this kind of work, then obviously it's Photoshop. I used to use a very old version, CS1, that goes back to like 2003 or something like that. I used that for a long time. Just this year, I switched over to CS6, I believe. Very good software because it has autosave. Finally, after I don't know how many years, they put an autosave feature. So now I could work, if you forget to save, it does one every few minutes for you. So it's quite good, and it's very, very stable. Photoshop has never, I think the last 6 years, 7 years, has never crashed on me. So yeah, you could feel safe working in this environment and do whatever without having to think that the software is going to cause you problems. So yeah, definitely Adobe Photoshop. Let's see, this question I already answered, has to do with injuries. So, all right. This is a technical question. I'll answer real quick. Deadman25 US asks, well, what opacity do you set your brush to? I've answered this before, but I usually work in about 80%, okay, for most of my work. All right, next one is okay, from Lidybug333. I have a question. Seems like you implied that in some of your videos that it is possible to work as a freelance concept artist from, does that mean you can work in industry that are not located in the US while you live in Europe? Of course, that's sort of the point of freelance, and that's why I do it. You don't have to be in the same city or in the same continent as your clients. In fact, I say over 60% or more of my clients I've never ever met in person. They're always all over the place. Right? I just did a project within just last year. I think we did one for Canada. I think we did one for Europe. currently doing one from California. So yeah, they're everywhere, and I'm here in Singapore, right? They don't care. I mean, freelance, they get it. They know that you're overseas. All they want is good work. Remember I mentioned that earlier. You do good work, you meet your deadline. Very important. You meet your deadline, do good work. Then yeah, clients usually don't care where you are. And once they have a trust with you, they know that you're not leaking out secrets, that you're safe, you're sending your files encrypted, all that kind of things that you will be doing. Then yeah, they'll continue working with you remotely. Just you don't have to be anywhere. Actually, you can just find a good city to live in and build up your company from there. So, all right, next one is from let's see, Start Media 92, and this person here basically asked any time management techniques. Actually, do I like to answer this to our students? Because our students ask the same thing. There is no time management. Actually, in my opinion, there is no like from this time I should do this. What it is, get rid of all the stuff that gets in your way of work and just get rid of them. That's it. That's my basic time management. I don't have anything like from 6 to 7, eat and gotta make sure from 8 to whatever. What I find from teaching so many students the last almost 4 years now is that a lot of people, if they find where they're going wrong, where the problem showing up, is procrastination. They're finding something else to do and not doing homework or doing drawing or painting. So, and that comes from maybe looking at Facebook, playing a video game, eating dinner for too long. That's not time management. That's wasting time. That's doing something you shouldn't be doing, right? You should know that, okay, if I use Facebook for half an hour, that's not work. Or I go out to eat for too long, that's not work either. Especially if you're a student. If you're a student, you shouldn't do any of those kind of stuff. It's not, you're paying tuition to go to a school. Why would you not want to do schoolwork, right? When I was in school, I was 24 hours a day, man, on doing my homework. I'll eat like fast foods. I could eat while I'm working. I never saw film for the 2 years I was in school. I didn't know what the heck was going on. That's how much I was involved because I was so much in love with what I was doing. I was like, this is incredible industry. I'm learning all this awesome stuff. I didn't want to do anything else. So that has to be in your personality. So time management to me, I didn't have any issues. I think in my case in school, because I just thought my time is school. That's it. So I didn't manage anything. The only thing is lack of sleep, and that's pretty common to all of us in this business. So yeah. So all right. So let's get to our last question here from Chokus SS or Chuck SS. Okay, and the person asked, Fang, is there a website where I could buy your art? Currently, no, I don't sell any of my art because I'm not an illustrator, so it's a little weird to sell like a piece of art or something like that. However, with that said, we are coming out with the FZD Artist book, and this features all our student work as well as my demos and our instructors' demos. So everything in this book is from the school. So there's no outside client work. It's not an art of my stuff I've done in the past, just from school. So that's coming out in about a month or so, and I just saw the proof yesterday. It looks really, really cool. Look forward to that. I think we'll be announcing that book as soon as it's done. Probably coming out in the next 2 weeks or so. In terms of coming out for us, and then we'll probably make it public maybe after a month after that. So it's a cool looking book. So in that book there will be some of my art in it, and hopefully you guys will see the level of our students as well. Okay, I usually try not to promote our school on these videos too much, but I think in this case we've been around for almost 4 years now. We started in the spring of 2009, and since that time we put out I think close to 100 or so students graduated. Now a lot of them are now working in all over the place, big studios, small studios, all over the world. So we're very proud of what our students have achieved. In the beginning, I don't think I could have said that without kind of some kind of confidence issue behind me because I can't prove it. But now I can. And the thing is, take a look at this book when it comes out. Take a look at the quality. And for some of you guys really want to break into the industry, at this point, I'll actually say that our school actually does a very good job of training you. We're very confident in our pipeline now. Okay, we know what we're doing. Students, if you come here, follow what we do, we can make you very, very good at this. And I think it's very evident in the art of our students. Okay, our pipeline is very, very solid now. So, and that makes me proud. It makes me very proud that these students are working hard to produce this type of work. So, hopefully, maybe some of you guys will see you in the future here as well. All right. So, all right, that's the end of these questions. I hope I've answered them all. And of course, there'll be more questions, I'm sure. You guys leave that in our comment section. I'll have our staff, which by the way, I'd like to thank our staff here, Elvira, for putting all these questions together. She has to go through and copy and paste all these for me. Yeah, leave in a comment section. And next episode, we'll go back to a drawing or painting one again. And perhaps another 5 episodes later, we'll do another Q&A, get everything together. All right? So until then, thanks for watching, and I will see you guys next time. See you.